Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watchbox, and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, tmosso@thewatchbox.com. It's in the description below. Your purchase and pricing email question line for buying this or any watch you see on any Watchbox platform. Please reach out to me directly. Email tmosso@thewatchbox.com. Today we're discussing a revived model that was launched in 2020. The original Lange Sohne Lange 1 time zone launched in the Grande Lange case back in 2005. The watch remains the size of the original Grande Lange 1, which means this rose gold 2020 Generation 2 model is 41.9 millimeters in diameter, 11.5 millimeters thick, and from lug to lug, 49.8 millimeters with a 22 millimeter spacing between the lugs. Throw it on my wrist. My wrist is 16 centimeters in circumference. It is grand indeed. As you can see, it has quite a wingspan. This is a watch I wouldn't wear on a wrist smaller than 15 centimeters circumference. Even on my wrist, it's pushing out to the edge. I could wear it, and I could wear it happily. You can see my wrist is actually quite a bit bigger. My hand is also quite a bit bigger, but the watch is large, so 15 centimeters circumference or larger. It is also flat, and with a domed bezel, it'll slide easily under a dress cuff. It is a dress complication after all. This East German handmade watch features a high-grade, large rectangular scale alligator leather strap. You can see a medium brown semi-gloss, some bolstering to give it thickness, a monotone stitch, a folded edge, and then on the underside you can see calf skin, and it is a brand new Lange Sohne factory strap. We have the Lange pin buckle. I've sung its praises before, but let me remind you, if you're seeing this for the first time, why I like these buckles. First, the bridge is elevated over the prongs on the edge, so the strap actually sits inside the buckle rather than stacking up and adding thickness underneath it when it's on your wrist. Also, this little bar here is there for a reason. If you have a small wrist and you use the smallest hole or even punch a smaller, tighter hole, you know that on small wrists, straps tend to get pinned on the pin, so to speak. This little retaining bar makes it easier to remove a tightly strapped watch. The case is familiar. We've known it since the original Lange 1 back in 1994. Domed bezel, sheer case flank, stepped out lugs. Here you can see that the mid case is satinated to add a little bit of a differentiating detail and some contrast, and you can see that the pushers themselves for the various complications are satinated outboard, but then they're polished on their edges and they're beveled on their edges, so the attention to detail there is strong. We've got a Lange branded crown and then a dial. The dial is the color silver, but it is also literally made of sterling silver. Lange cuts most of its dials from sterling silver and then galvanizes them whatever color they're going to be. Inside this rose gold watch we have a silver white dial, and there are a couple of changes compared to the original Lange 1 time zone. The big change will be the use of a little index adjacent to the city of reference. Now you can see right here we have Santiago, and that is our city of reference. We have this little index, and then inside of it there is a port that is filled by a red index. So an index within an index. Now what I can do here is I can change my reference city. The reference city's time is displayed on this second time zone. If you look carefully, you can see that there's that little red index within an index, and eventually, as I advance, we will get to a point where it is gone. That little red index is gone. I don't know how well you can see that. I'm going to try to show it to you. In the light of my light box, it's not as obvious, but it will turn red when you are setting a reference city that includes daylight savings time, that uses daylight savings time. Just so you know, you might be off by an hour at a time, and you may have to reset your watch if you are traveling to or from those zones. Now, of course, we have little discs that rotate underneath the time displays. So you see there's a semicircle on each of these time displays. This is where you are. This is your reference city, the city where you are not. And of course, it's a hybrid of a dual time and a world time, a little bit like Jaeger-LeCoultre's geographic complication. Now, these little semicircle discs within dials, they actually rotate. And you will notice that they will let you know whether you're looking at day or night in the time zone where you currently are. Now, the watch also includes a power reserve indicator, twin mainspring barrels, 72 hours of power reserve, and you can see there is a small second sub-register. If you pull the crown out, you will stop the seconds hand, and you will be able to set the watch to a reference time. The watch does include the panorama datum, or the outsized date, that is a signature of Lange, and you can adjust it using the trigger up at roughly 10 o'clock, I would say, on the dial. I would also remind you that in order to set these two dials separately to actually vary the time between them, what you want to do is press the city adjuster button, pull out the crown, and then adjust it so that the reference city time is frozen in place. This is how you decouple these two time zones. A lot of people will own these watches for years and never realize how you decouple these two displays. Now you can see that there are many cities of reference here. I'm in Philadelphia, so my city of reference would be New York, which uses daylight savings time, and the watch would tell me that. The hands, the indices, the numerals, and the frame for the date, all 18-karat rose gold. On the reverse side, you can see we have a movement that is properly sized to fit the case, and we get not one but two freehand engraved structures, the structure that bears the travel time mechanism and the structure that bears the balance. You can also see that these spiral spoke wheels are evocative of vintage East German clocks and pocket watches, so that's what's being achieved here. So manual wind, 2 barrels, 72 hours of power reserve indicator, second time zone with time zone functionality, stop seconds, a 5-position adjustment of the watch while running, just like a chronometer. You can see that it pivots on 38 jewels. You can also see that it features gorgeous finishing, and all of the bridges and plates glow a golden hue because they are made of nickel copper zinc, sometimes known as German silver, and it is the copper that gives them that golden hue. You can see we have both black polished and fired blued screws. We have a black polished swan's neck fine adjustment mechanism. We have the freehand floral engraving. We have glasuta stripes across the bridges. You'll also note around the access port at the center of the 3/4 plate and the edge of the 3/4 plate, we have high-grade mirrored anglage, as good as anything you will find in Geneva and the Vallée du Jeu. We have engine turning on the base plate, and as you can see, satination on all of the wheels. We also have a black polished cap over the escape wheel, and it has one sharp inward angle, which is always difficult to achieve and nice to see. All of this is 30 meters water resistant and beats away at 21,600 vibrations per hour. Reach out to Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details.